Hello everyone, welcome to 2015 Maya tutorial. We got our catapult we've been working on for quite a while. Last time we did a lesson, we built the character rig for this guy and did some dynamics. And I made sure this little ball here lights on fire, and when we animate it, it'll go flying. So now we're going to set up our render stats so that we can actually do a render of our catapult throwing this fireball. Also, we're going to set up lighting for this so that we'll actually have some accurate lighting, some shadows going on. Every scene that gets rendered usually has some kind of light rig created for it, and those can be as simple or complicated as you want to make them. I'm not going to get into light linking today, which is more of a complicated type of lighting, but we're going to do something very simple with just some plain directional lights. So if we go over here, underneath create, we have lights, and directional light is the one we're going to mainly use. The other two we use quite a bit is point light and spotlight. Point light is kind of like a light bulb. Spotlight is like a flashlight. So directional light kind of emulates the sun, so that's the one we're going to go with. Okay, and it just drops it over here in the middle of the floor near the origin. And I'll scale this up, and this is just a visual thing. It doesn't actually make the light more intense or anything like that. It just makes it easier for me to see and grab. The triangles at the ends of these lines here, those are telling me which direction the lights are coming from. So I can see that this direction kind of says that the sun's at this angle here, and the light waves are going to be kind of coming down this direction, which means the shadows will cast to this side of the catapult, which is what I want. Also, if you look over here, we have some attributes we can mess with the light. We have intensity. We can make the light less intense by dialing that back. We can add some color variation to this if we want to. Maybe I want there to be a little bit more orange, yellow kind of color to it. We'll add it in like that. Okay. I usually don't use depth map shadows. Usually I use ray tracing. That's what Mental Ray likes to use, so I'll leave that one active. Maybe I'll put ray depth to 2 and see how that looks. Make the renders a little faster. Okay, so right now I can't see the shadows in my screen, and I also can't see how the light's being affecting my catapult yet because Maya has the default light still on. So for me to be able to see the shadows, I can probably still click shadows and they'll appear. Well, actually, no, they won't. I have shadows clicked right now and they still aren't appearing. I have to go to lighting and turn off default lights. Right now it says use default light. I'm going to turn on use all lights. And now it's on. Also, you can see that the lights toggle is on inside my viewport to the top here. If I click the one right next to it, it'll also cast the shadows that I'm looking for. So there's those shadows that I wanted. Okay, and if I move this light in whatever direction, you can see how it affects the direction angle of my shadows. Okay, so that looks good. Now, let's go up here and anytime you create a light system, you want to usually create a 3-point light system, which means that there's 3 supporting lights to create your or lighting your object. So this first one here is our main light, and I'm going to duplicate it and move it over to the other side, and we'll have it face the opposite direction. So it's facing the back of my catapult, opposing the main light. And I'm going to lower the intensity because it's more of a fill light is what's happening here. And I'll put that at, let's say, 0.4. Also, I want to make sure that this other light here isn't casting shadows because I don't want there to be actually 3 lights. I just want my scene to be lit evenly in certain spots. Actually, we're trying to 0.3. And so it isn't really dark in the spots where my main light isn't hitting. So let's turn ray trace shadows off. So now it's not casting shadows in this direction. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to do one more light. I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to have this one actually kind of facing almost horizontally, so it's giving me that fill light underneath it. Okay. And since I duplicated it off the supporting light, it maintained that intensity of 0.3. So I think that's good. That looks pretty even. Okay. So now I need to go to my render settings and make sure that the render is set up the way I want it to be set up. So this little movie take guy with the little balls on the side of it, that's where our render settings are set up. Okay. Alright, so depending on the render you're using, it will depend on the tabs you have here. If you're using just my software, you only get 2 tabs. You can go over here and pick what kind of quality you want, and it just automatically loads that quality in there. You can do preview quality, and it knocks all these extra things off, or you can go to medium quality, ramps them up a little bit, go to highest quality, it opens up a bunch of different attributes here, contrast threshold and all that, and probably activates ray tracing quality. So that you can get some better quality renders going on. But I like to use Mental Ray, so we're going to switch this back over to Mental Ray and leave it as is for right now. Quality, unified sampling is on, ray tracing is activated. All these settings here look fine. Back in the Commons tab, if you scroll down from the top here, we have well, for one, you want to look at your path here where these images are going to be rendered off to. Right now it says My Projects, and then it goes down Tracks Editor, Images, and in the Images folders where when I do a batch render, it'll render all these images into that. So that's important. Now I need to decide the image format. If it's going to be my FF, which I'm going to leave it as my FF. That's pretty standard. The FCheck batch render video player runs my FF, and using any external program like Adobe After Effects can take those files and composite them for you. So next down the line here we have frame, animation, dot extension, and this is where you normally be set up with just name single frame here. So it'll just render off a single image. But if you're going to be doing a video, you need to make sure it's not set on single frame, which is I think where it defaults to when you first open Maya. So we want to go down to name.number.extension. Is what that means is that whatever your project name is called, the number of render or the image render number is. So if you have 120 frames, it's image number 47. It'll tell you as you're rendering out each one of these frames where you're at with this. Then dot extension, which makes sense. Now frame padding, that tells you, if you look at the top up here, how it says there's 0, 0, 0, 1. If you frame pad down to 2, you'll only have 0, 1. At 3, you'll have 0, 0, 1, 4, and you get the idea. It just opens up for how many frames you can render before the padding runs out. Okay, and down here where it says frame range, it starts out at frame 1, ends at frame 170. That tells me how far my animation is going to play. If my frame or my animation is longer, like I have it set to 300 down here, I can just bump this up to 300, hit enter, and now it'll render off up to 300, which is perfect. Okay, going down here, it's asking me which cameras do I want to use. Now, I have camera Catapult. This is the one I've created. It's custom. I'll show you how you can just create yourself a custom camera real quick. You just go create cameras, camera, and you can use any of these other ones as well, but the simple camera is the easiest one to use. And you can just take this guy over here, have them kind of face your Catapult, and you just call it camera shot 2 or anything you want to call it really. And then if you look over under renderable cameras now, camera shot 2 is right there. So now I can pick camera shot 2 as the render that or the camera I want to use for this particular batch render. Presets, I have this one set to HD 1080. You can change it to anything that you really want. It has a bunch of different preset customs in here, but there's a lot of options in here as far as how you want to be rendered. But HD 1080 is pretty standard. Almost everyone wants quality. Sometimes we go full screen 1280, but I think HD 1080 is pretty much the standard that almost everyone wants to go with. So that would be this option right here. Okay, and that's pretty much all you need to do. So we're done with our setup. From here, let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop this for a second. Let's see what our render looks like before we actually do a batch render. So to just do a test render, we'll go ahead and hit this little movie take thing again, and that will batch render us off our image. And this will take just a second. Give us a better idea of what we're working with. Okay, that's looking pretty clean. We've got our fire. We got our shadows casted off to the side here, and that looks pretty cleanly lit the way I like it. Of course, if we had textures, we can do a better job with our lights, but I'm trying to keep this this video under 20 minutes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with doing texturing for the ground and Catapult as well. Let's go ahead and close this off for right now. I like the way that rendered out. That'll do. Now let's look at how we're going to set our camera up over here. So we got panels, perspective, camera shot 2. Okay, and all right, that looks good. Now cameras are also animatable, so I can have this camera actually follow my Catapult and circle it if I wanted to. So I can take this camera, it's over here, and if I want to parent it into this main control, what I'll do is shift select the standard parent-child relationship. So this guy here is my child, and this control here is the parent. So I'll just hit P. So now when I scrub this forward, you can see the camera follows with it. But maybe I don't want the camera to start out right here. So maybe I want to actually kind of be off to the side and maybe rotate out a little bit as it goes forward. So maybe I'll actually move the pivot point of this camera by holding D, and I'll just move it to where it is actually more located right here. Okay, and so I'll have my initial angle start out right here. So I'll add a keyframe for my camera and on frame 0. And as I see it kind of scrubbing forward here and getting ready to launch, I want by frame 100 for it to rotate back over here. Let's see how that looks. We'll go jump into that camera view. Alright, that looks okay. I'm manually controlling it, so I'm getting a little bit of double translation going on, it seems. Doing it this way is kind of a no-no. You can tell just by the way that it's moving. But that looks okay. Alright. And maybe by frame 150, I'll actually have this guy translate a little bit forward as well. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to go back. Let's go ahead and just play the animation, see how it feels. Alright, it's rotating slowly back. There goes the fireball. Cool. Alright, let's stop that. We'll go back. Now we're going to look at how we actually do our batch render. And this process is actually so simple. The harder part of the process is actually just doing the setup for the batch render, which was what we did earlier. So we just got to drop or go into our menu sets over here. Right now it's set to End Dynamics. I'm going to go over to Rendering and go to Renderer. And from here, I'm going to go to Batch Render. And when I hit this, it'll automatically go into Batch Render mode, and it will start rendering off single images here. So I'm going to drop this down to, let's say, because right now it's set up to where it's going to want to render out all 300 of these frames, and I don't want to kill you guys with waiting on this. So I'm going to go from frame 1, let's just say to frame 10 tops. And I think I can talk for the amount of time it'll take to do that. Alright, so hit enter, close this off. So all I did is I just changed the start and end frame time for the renders. And now I'll go to render, batch render, and if I want to I can go open up this little sub menu here. Once it pop over to my second screen, it tells me how many threads I can have available for me to do. Threads are how many cores I want my machine to use. I'll just go ahead and use all the cores available to it. That's fine. Batch render and close. Ask me if I want to save. I'll say sure, go ahead and save it. And now it's gonna, if you look down over here, near the bottom here, it says render with mental ray. And initially it takes a second for it to go ahead and start up, but once it starts, it'll start doing a process that kind of like will do a percentage countdown for each frame and let you know how it's doing and let you know which frame it's on. It just gives you, yeah, here we go. It just fired up. So it says percentage of rendering done, 30% of frame. If you look over here, it's giving you the path, my projects, tracks editor, images, Catapult scene 0001. Now it's already finished with the first one. It's now on to frame 2, and it's going to render off all these guys. So while it's doing this, I'm actually going to get the player ready that lets you go ahead and run this animation so you guys can preview your batch render once you guys actually have your renderer done. Now inside Maya, it's not something inside this this menu setup here, but every time you have a version of Maya, there's a program inside of Maya called FCheck. So you'll have to search it, but you'll find it inside the applications, and you'll open this program up and it will play your animations for you. So I'll just go to my search here and I'll just put in FCheck so I don't have to go through and find it on inside of Maya. But I know if you guys do this, you'll find it inside the application explorer that Maya comes with. Alright, so there it is, FCheck. Okay, and it's almost done. So I'll go to File. I'll just go ahead and start finding the animations. So I'll go to Open Animation. And I'm looking for, this is a different file. Let's see here. I'm looking for, it's underneath the D drive, so there it is, D drive, my projects, and we're doing tracks editor 2. Okay, so it's this one. And then images. Okay, so there they are. It's actually rendering out the last one as we speak. And there we go. It says at the bottom here, percentage of rendering done for the last frame. Just give it 1 second here, and then we'll give her a play. There we go. So then it should say at the bottom here, completed. Yep, rendering completed. So now I can go ahead and just click the first one. I don't have to select all of these. Just click the first one, hit open, and FCheck will load them up. So it's playing through them at 24 frames per second. So it isn't showing you very much. Just the fire's just barely starting here, and the camera's just starting to spin. I could render off all the rest of this and show you guys later, but you guys get the picture. You guys can, if you guys are following along with this Catapult project, you guys are kind of right here. You guys can go ahead and render this off, and you can see how it works. If this doesn't quite work correctly for you, go ahead and leave a comment in the section below, and I'll address anything that I may have missed that got me where I'm at here to help you guys get to the finish line as well. Thanks for watching. It was fun doing this project, and I'll see you guys in the next project. Thanks. Bye.